Hello once again, class. Good to be back. Sorry for my slight leave of absence, that's why I uploaded 2 videos back to back, just because I've been busy. Anywho, today we're going back to my obligations as we're going over another SCP. And today is SCP-2421, otherwise known as Don't Let the Bed Bugs Bite. Object class for today is Euclid. Special containment procedures. Through controlled feeding at certain known feeding areas, the range of SCP-2421 has been limited to 250 kilometers squared area in the south of Russia. Mobile Task Force Alpha 2, otherwise known as resort staff, are responsible for maintaining these areas. Feeding areas are presented as a chain of resorts branded as Fundamental Springs. D-Class are stationed at all feeding areas for the purpose of consumption. Description: SCP-2421 is a large subterranean entity which resides a minimum of 100 meters beneath ground level. It has a roughly oval shape with a segmented shell covering most of its body and a fleshy gap between each segment to allow for articulation. Hair-like protrusions cover the outside of the shell in an irregular pattern. SCP-2421 possesses no legs and moves in a manner similar to a caterpillar. At the presumed front of the creature are 2 claw-like mandibles which allow it to burrow through rock. It is approximately 300 meters long and possesses a 150-meter long proboscis protruding from between its mandibles. Additionally, imaging has shown SCP-2421 to possess an intricate skeletal structure within its shell, containing a number of air-filled chambers, the purpose of which are unknown. Sample analysis of the entity reveals a non-standard genetic structure, possibly suggesting extra-dimensional origin. The creature feeds by extending its proboscis towards the surface and puncturing the bottom of a small body of water, in which the temperature is approximately 25 degrees Celsius or higher. These locations include hot springs, spas, or in one case a bath. Once the bottom of the body of water has been punctured, the sphincter at the end of the proboscis will open and any humans within the water will be pulled inside. The entity will consume approximately 5 humans over a 2-day period once per month and will expand its feeding area should humans be scarce. One minor footnote here: observed feeding as far as the current containment area as Redacted, California, prior to current measures. Feeding episodes consist with SCP-2421 were first reported in May 1840. Redacted. Attempts to replace D-Class with animals during feeding episodes have been unsuccessful, as test animals remained untouched despite the water being the correct temperature within the feeding range. So quite horrifyingly, it seems to only want to feed on humans. D-Class fed to SCP-2421 implanted with tracking devices have been observed to move in the air-filled chambers of the entity's shell in an erratic manner. In one incident, where civilians were unavoidably consumed during a feeding episode, a call was made to the Foundation-owned spa resort from the phone of a presumed dead civilian within the entity. No specific words were identified, however, background sounds of conversation, laughter, splashing, and low moans, and what has been determined to be seagulls were recorded. Fascinating. So it's possible that being consumed possibly sends you to another dimension of sorts. How horrifyingly fascinating. But that's all we have time for today. Thank you all for attending the lecture, and until next time.
Hello again, class. Welcome back. And today we are diving into the SCP world again, as the Foundation is getting uppity again, saying I've gone too long without covering another file. So, to appease my boss, here we are. Anyway, today's SCP is known as SCP-973, otherwise known as Smokey. Object class is Euclid. Special containment procedures. SCP-973's nature precludes it from full containment within the Foundation. Due to the danger it presents, a 60-kilometer stretch of U.S. route redacted on which it is known to manifest is to be under satellite surveillance at all times. Any vehicle attempting to travel the designated section of highway between 10 p.m. and 4:30 a.m. are to be diverted to the detours at exits redacted by Foundation personnel. Trespassers are to be forcibly arrested and detained if the need should arise. Description: SCP-973 consists of two entities. SCP-973-1 is a police cruiser resembling those by redacted state troopers in the early 1970s. The vehicle appears to be in an advanced state of disrepair. Eyewitness accounts have consistently mentioned large dents in the door and hood, a heavily cracked windshield, heavy rusting, and a loose rear bumper secured with duct tape. SCP-973-2, meanwhile, is reported to be a Caucasian male in his late 40s, wearing a redacted state trooper uniform dating from the same time period of SCP-973-1. Subject is described as balding, slightly overweight, and having a handlebar mustache. SCP-973 will manifest at night when another vehicle enters the designated territory, and is believed to be triggered by the target vehicle accelerating over a certain speed. This limit varies, with the average being in the area of 88.5 kilometers an hour, otherwise 55 miles per hour, but it can range anywhere between 53.3 kilometers an hour, which is 35 miles per hour, and also 112.7 kilometers an hour, which is also 70 miles an hour. No predictable pattern or connection between differing limits has been found as of yet, though. When this limit is broken, SCP-973 will appear approximately 0.4 kilometers behind the target vehicle and will chase down the target at high speed with the siren and flashers on. This is accompanied by a looping message played on the target's radio. Now, one thing kind of funny here, the Foundation itself has actually censored what the phrase is, simply saying that it is explicitive. So if even the Foundation is censoring what this guy said purely because of how rude it is, I'm not sure I want to look into how rude it actually is. But basically it just says the phrase run, and then everything else is redacted. In redacted percent of cases, the target will flee with SCP-973 in pursuit and will be overtaken in 1 to 6 minutes. At this point, redacted, the remains of 34 individuals and 19 vehicles have been found within a 6.4 kilometers of the affected roadway. The range of damage done to the bodies can vary, and just simply due to not wanting to disturb any of the members here in class, I will refrain from speaking them out loud. If you are really curious, as always, the link to the file itself is in the description of this audio lecture. However, 5 survivors are within Foundation custody, all suffering from varying degrees of mental trauma. The recovered vehicles showcase heavy impact damage, both environmental and inflicted. and severe burn damage in the interior. Addendum number 1. Destroying the roadway affected by SCP-973 has proven ineffective. The demolition of part of State Route Redacted in 1983 led to SCP-973 relocating itself to its current position. Addendum 2. Redacted. Attempt to capture and contain SCP-973 fails, resulting in the death of 9 agents. SCP-976 is believed to be wounded, but is not incapacitated, reappearing 9 days later. First-hand accounts indicate a change in SCP-9732's appearance, as shown in the excerpt from the post-mission interview of Agent Redacted. Commencing clip from interview now.
I can't really say. He just looked different. His eyes were red, I remember that. And his mouth, just this black hole. No teeth, no tongue, just a hole. I was too busy shooting at him to get a better look than that.
End interview. Addendum 3. SCP-973's area of effect seems to be expanding, as does the window of time that manifestations occur. Security protocols have been adapted to this. And that is the end of this session. Pretty disturbing one, if I say so myself. Like I said, if you wanted to see some of the stuff that I personally cut out, feel free to read the actual file itself, as always located in the description. But that's all we have time for today. I hope the Foundation can get a handle on this before he gets even more out of hand. But anyway, until next time. Hello again, class. Good to be back. We're kicking off our spooky season narrations with one of our SCPs to at the very least appease the Foundation for the rest of this month, hopefully, and to get them off of my back. But today, I figured we'd ease us into spooky month with just the goodest of boys, SCP-1424, otherwise known as Patches. The object class for 1424 is safe. Special containment procedures. SCP-1424 is to be placed in an airtight 2x2x2 meter cushion-lined containment pen. The area is to be monitored bi-weekly to confirm the subject's physical condition. Personnel are to equip gas masks when entering the area. The containment cell is to be filtered for gas daily. Description: SCP-1424 appears to be a juvenile dog of the Alaskan Malamute breed. A platinum chain choke collar around its neck reads "Patches for my sweetheart." Behavior of SCP-1424 is typical of juvenile dogs. SCP-1424 has a body temperature that ranges between -23 and -18 Celsius, and continually exudes substantial amounts of ammonia through its tongue and paws, causing a significant health risk to personnel exposed in an unventilated space for a long enough period of time. How this compound is produced from SCP-1424 is not yet known. SCP-1424 also displays a number of other physical abnormalities. For example, SCP-1424 shows no vital signs. Bodily organs are intact, although they're not functioning. SCP-1424 does not react to what would normally cause an organism physical pain. SCP-1424's body does not heal from injury, so any injuries are permanent. SCP-1424 has not been shown to respond to sound, light, or smell, although its motor and vocal abilities do not appear to be inhibited in any way. SCP-1424's eyes do not appear to be functional, as it has been seen colliding with walls occasionally when moving around its containment pen. It can't be ascertained whether or not SCP-1424 sleeps or is simply not moving either. SCP-1424 moves around its containment pen in a predictable pattern each day, only deviating from this repeated behavior when interrupted. When placed into a different cell, SCP-1424 will simply repeat the pattern of movements that was exhibited on its first day, present in its new surroundings. Special precautions are to be taken when moving and testing SCP-1424 for preservation purposes, as if you remember, he doesn't heal from any injuries, so any possible damage to him could be very, very severe. SCP-1424 was discovered at an animal shelter in Los Angeles, California, following multiple failed euthanasia attempts. Witnesses were administered amnestics, and the entity was recovered without incident. Staff at the shelter report the owner being extremely distressed when delivering SCP-1424 to their facility, placing SCP-1424 on the counter and immediately leaving. No additional information on the previous owner was ever found. Autopsy Report 1424-A. Special precautions were taken during extraction of the contents of the stomach and intestines to prevent unnecessary physical damage to SCP-1424. As expected, SCP-1424 did not react with distress and shows no signs of inhibited movement or vocal ability after the procedure. Contents of stomach were identified to be chewed but undigested steak, miscellaneous paper material, and one 24.41 CT diamond encrusted ring set in 14-karat white gold. And that is all for this lecture. Patches is a very good boy, and I can't wait to see him during our next round of testing. But that is all for today. Thank you all for attending today's lecture. Happy Spooky Month, and until next time.